Thank you so much for setting this up, Christine, and thank you everybody for coming. I am Michele Morrow, and I am running to be the next state superintendent because I believe that the what's happening in our school system is the biggest threat to the constitutional republic that we are facing right now. We are lying to our children about history, about biology, about economics, about math. We're lying to them about their race. We are telling them that their character and their future is determined by the color of their skin. We are lowering the bar of expectation for academics and even for personal responsibility and for character. And it's time for us to get back to the basics and teach our children to be self-controlled, to be critically thinking, to be problem solvers, and to understand the blessing and the responsibility that it is to be a citizen in the greatest nation in the history of the world. So I want to bring civics back. I want to bring financial literacy. I want to bring actual math that has right and wrong answers, and that's based on the math that you and I grew up with and the rest of the world is using. I believe that it's time to get all of the political agendas and the social justice agendas, the CRT, critical race theory, the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and SEL, social emotional learning. All of those things are taking our money and they're taking up classroom time, and they are dividing our students rather than uniting them. And we are not giving our children the education that they're going to need to be productive members of society. And so I want to get back to the basics. My 3 points of my plan to do this is to focus on safety, scholastics, as well as fiscal responsibility. When we look at safety, it's more than just safety from external threats, but that is very important. I believe that the schools should be the safest buildings in our entire state. We need officers, we need weapons detection systems, and we need video surveillance in our schools. I have been going across the state for the last couple of years, and the story is the same everywhere. There is chaos in our classrooms. There are fights that are breaking out in middle school and high school almost on a daily basis. And these are from schools that people think are quote unquote good schools. Just recently, Charlotte Mecklenburg, their school board discussed putting Narcan into every classroom and teaching the teachers how to use it to help children that are overdosing on fentanyl. This open border is a huge crisis. You guys may have seen right there near you, not too far from you guys in New Hanover, a little farther south, that the superintendent there was wanting to close down a special needs school so that they could put illegal aliens in it. This is not okay. The North Carolina families need to be helped first. We need to offer a sound, basic moral education to every citizen, school-age child in North Carolina, and that needs to be the first priority. So I will fight back against that. I will be a firewall between DC and NC, and I will ensure that our state, as the Constitution has told us, our state legislature is going to be the one that controls the curriculum and the budgeting. And we're going to start our budgeting from the classroom and then bring it upward into the administration. We are very top heavy. My opponent, Catherine Truitt, is the incumbent. She is in this position right now. She has tripled the number of directorships in the DPI, and she gave several of them almost a 60% raise the last 2 years. And all that was offered to our teachers, the boots on the ground, our staff, was 2 to 3% raises. This is unwarranted. We have to use our finances in order to build up our classrooms, to have resources, to be able to attract and to maintain excellent teachers and excellent staff. So I'm going to do an external audit, and we're going to find out where our money's going, and we're going to reprioritize it to making sure that it's going to our students and our staff first and foremost. In terms of safety in the classroom, I want to have a code of conduct that's not just going to be for staff and for students, it's also going to be for parents. so that they understand that it is a privilege to come and to use our public educational system, and they will be accountable if their children are not doing their work, if they're being so distracting that other students can't learn, if they're harming others in the classroom. There need to be consequences across the board. And when we look at scholastics, we have got to get rid of this curriculum that's coming down from Biden's U.S. Department of Education. And we need to go back to when we were focused on reading, writing, and math, true history, science, and these types of things. And I would like to bring I'd like to partner with community businesses in the community and bring opportunities for internships, work study programs to every high school in North Carolina. In addition, we have got to, we just have to teach our children the truth. We need to stop allowing mental health clinics and making it a medical clinic. The schools are not to be practicing medicine. When under my administration, there will not be any diagnoses, any treatments, or any counseling for students, for minors, without the direct permission and participation of parents. In my opinion, if a child is struggling in any way, whether it's intellectually, academically, emotionally, then the entire family is suffering with that, and the entire family needs to be brought into that. So if a child is suspected of having an issue, the first phone call needs to be to the parents. And we need to stop allowing our government schools to be acting as the parents to our children. And so that's kind of where I stand. I think we have the money, we have the staff, we have the resources, or we have the people that are equipped to be able to prepare our kids to be critical thinkers, and to be problem solvers, and to be mature, and to be hardworking, and to love this country, and to be able to use their gifts and talents to invest in the communities. And so that's my plan. We've got to do it now. We cannot afford 4 more years of the failures that we've seen in our schools across North Carolina.
Well, I tell you, you talked for like 2 seconds and we got the audio working really good in here. So we can hear you great. You may not hear us as well.
I hear you great.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Are you ready for a few questions from folks?
Absolutely.
Okay, who wants to ask a question?
I just want to say you have my vote.
That was
Thank you.
Miss Carol Peterson here that just said that ran for school board last election. And so I'm glad she came tonight to be able to hear you. She was not present Saturday when we met you at the Northeast Carolina Republican Women meeting at 3 Tequilas.
Well, thank you, Carol, and thank you for running. And if you'd be willing to tell others and work at a poll for me, that would be great.
I'll see what I can do.
That would be super.
Yeah, that was my question.
I'm gonna tilt the camera that direction so you can see this gentleman asking here. He's asking, do you know if the North Carolina lottery helps the public schools?
Well, and we had that discussion on Saturday. Apparently, the money goes to the county commissions, and then they are the ones that are supposed to be doling it out to the schools. I have to say, it according to Ron on Saturday, he said that money is usually used for infrastructure. So if there's things that need to be changed in the actual buildings or on the property, that's what it tends to be used for. I can't say that I have heard that it's actually going toward academics or helping our students in any way, shape, or form. But I think that's really dependent on which district that you live in, because if you are tasked with living in an area where the school board is very left leaning, they're probably using that money for very different purposes than preparing our kids to be critical thinkers, because that's a threat to the globalist goals. But I would ask your county commissioners to show you what they've done with that money. County commissioners kind of run and hold for everything. And asking your school boards to tell what they've done, how much has been received and what they've done with it would be a great question, because that's going to be completely based on local county commissions and local school boards.
One of Del
Interesting.
Powell's things is that the lottery is not getting enough money to education.
Well, isn't there some rules? I thought there was some
There are
rules
some rules they seem to be changing.
that, or they're being violated. Who's changing them?
Did you say the libraries?
Yeah, Del Powell, and of course,
What-
he's the North Carolina, treasurer right now running for governor. He has indicated he wants to push for
Right.
schools to get more of the lottery money. He doesn't feel like they are getting what they were supposed to get.
Well, there should be some rules.
Yes.
There was
Yeah. I would
40%, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure.
I mean, there should be some.
Well,
spaces.
I would think that I would think that Treasurer Falwell, he's had a pretty good pulse on where our money's going, and he's done excellent in that job. And so I would have to defer to him. If he's saying that it's not going to where it needs to be going, then I trust that assessment.
Well, it's going to the schools, but not enough a percentage of the lottery proceeds are going to the school as was first outlined.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard when I've been down at the General Assembly too, from people complaining about it. This is the thing. We have last year, the public school system, I think it's 32% of all of our tax money goes to the K through 12 public school system. And last year it was $13 billion, billion with a B. And on average, we are paying $12,000 a year per student that's in a public school. So there is really no reason why our children are not reading and writing and doing math and science up to grade level. I mentioned this on Saturday. The national statistics just came out, and less than 25% of our 8th graders are proficient in reading, math, or science on a national scale. So that is a travesty, because we know for a fact that 3 out of 4 8th graders are not repeating 8th grade. They're just being pushed along. And that's what's happening under my administration. I would say no one should be graduating from elementary school without mastering reading and math. Because those are the foundations for everything else that we learn. And when kids get into middle school, when kids are in elementary school, they will often ask if they have a question, if they don't understand something. Once you're getting into 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the kids are just not going to admit that they don't know what's going on. And so it's really important that we give them the foundation that they need for all higher level of learning.
Would you be willing to set up classrooms so a teacher isn't teaching children on 9th grade level, children on 6th grade level, and children on 1st grade level?
Yes,
In the
ma'am.
same way?
Specifically in elementary school, what I would like to see happen is I would like for reading and math classes for each teacher within the grade level to be assigned an ability level. And so the children will be in that class with that teacher that are all at a similar level. And then as they progress, they can go up to the next classroom. I'm fine with everybody being included, all together in all different abilities and learning styles for the other classes. But I think specifically for math and for reading, it is paramount that those students are in a similar ability level with others on that, so that the teachers can give them the amount of time that they need, and they can focus on where they are, rather than trying to go from children that don't speak English to the kids that are gifted and talented, to the typical learners, to those with some type of a learning disability. It's just too much for one teacher to handle, and nobody's really getting what they need.
Right.
I'd also like to take all handheld devices out of our kids' hands and give back to tech. Yeah. So I'm fine with computer labs in the schools. So just like you would go to music class or art class, you can go to computer lab once or twice a week on rotation, and you can, do games and things that will enhance what you've been learning in your other classes. But we are really damaging our children emotionally, as well as just the physical development of their brains is being impacted by looking at a screen all day long, rather than looking at people's faces, looking at a piece of paper and a board and back to the piece of paper. The experiment needs to end. We've tried it. It's not working. So let's go back to what works.
Are you familiar with what Sweden is doing with cell phones? You familiar with what they're
No,
doing?
no. What does Sweden do?
Sweden, all cell phones out of the classroom. No cell phones in the
Hey,
classroom. They can
that's
have
right.
other cell phones when they go home or whatever, but none in the classroom.
Yep.
We all
And I think
follow.
Yep, we're going to have to get to that point because I just spoke with a substitute teacher down in Johnston County today, and he said to me, this seems hopeless unless we get the screens out of our classrooms. I have to agree with them, because not only it impacts our kids academically, it's impacting them developmentally. It's really taking away their empathy and their compassion, which is why we're seeing, I think, whoops, my lights just went off. Why we're seeing the increase in violence in our schools, because you have to learn how to read people's faces, how to read, body language, and when you say things, you need to be able to see how people are responding to it. We all know that people say things on a screen behind a keyboard that they would never say if they were looking at someone's face, eye to eye, and that, I think, is what's causing so much of the bullying. It's causing
Oh, I think we lost her.
Yeah, see, that's my take, is we are spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year giving everyone their own individual device through the school districts. And I was in a meeting in March, I think it was March or April of 2022, in my county, which is Wake County, and it was a meeting of the county commissioners as well as all of the school board members, and they were discussing how they could manage to get the legislature to include the COVID ESSER funds, which was upwards of $300 million a year that we were getting, how to keep that in our budget in perpetuity. And their reasoning for that they were going to go to the legislature and they were going to say, well, there's so much food insecurity in our schools, so we need to feed the kids, at least 3 meals a day and then some extra snacks. So that's going to be one part of the budget that we increase. And then the other part, which was the majority of how they wanted this money to just keep coming to them, was because we needed more devices for kindergarten through 12th grade. And then we were going to need more IT staff. And then they wanted, out of the education budget in Wake County, they wanted for the education budget to pay to expand the 5G network throughout Wake County. And so, and then this is very telling. So at the end of that meeting, they were trying to come up with action points for how they could get this money from the legislature. And they said, well, why don't we take a couple of people from the county commission, a couple of people from the school board, we'll go to them together and we'll be a united front. And then they said, and if they don't give us the money, we'll put it in a bond. And then everybody laughed. So this is the problem. The left sees money as the end goal, whereas we see educating our students and using money as the tool to educate our students. So we're really, I said this on Saturday, the left, we're not even shooting at the same target on the same wall. Like, we're shooting on one side of the room and the left is shooting at the other. And so we need a dramatic overhaul of even what the goals are for education. And that's why we need a change at the DPI. That's why we need a change in the superintendent, because she or he, whoever is in it, has the ability to set standards that then the school boards need to comply with. And those standards are they should be in accordance with what laws have been passed by the General Assembly. So we need somebody that's going to work with the General Assembly and it has conservative values in mind for our schools.
You mentioned you wanted to call the topic for tonight getting back to the basics, or reading, writing, arithmetic, I assume.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think that schools should include in addition to the basics? And are you going to fight against CRT kind of creeping into the curriculums?
100%. CRT is already there. CRT, SEL, DEI, Common Core. What we need to recognize is the federal government is really controlling not just our schools and our curriculums and our budgetary decisions, but it's controlling it throughout the country. And when I mentioned that we need a firewall, we need someone that's going to push back. Quite honestly, the U.S. Department of Education has no right to exist constitutionally. We need our states to be the ones that are determining what our state public schools are going to look like. Basics, I want to bring back, I mean, I'm all for science and history. I would like to bring civics back to our schools and have it from kindergarten through 12th grade. I was just at a talk with Dr. Ben Carson, in the Sandhills on last Wednesday night, and he was mentioning that he's part of the American Cornerstone Project, and they have a curriculum for K through 5th grade. And I would like for us to start teaching our children the truth about U.S. history, and so that they understand what it means to be an active citizen, because we can't continue to be a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people if the people don't know what our role is, because the government does not give us our rights. The government works for us. And so that's what we need to focus on.
So what would be your plan then, or your solution for the schools that have implemented already litter box for the children who identify as furries?
Well, I would say this. I would say that has to stop immediately. And if a parent is wanting their child to consider themselves a cat, then they'll need to go find themselves somewhere else to go to school. And what needs to happen, the way that this happens is we can withhold funding from schools that are not promoting what standards we're setting. But here's the thing. We need the legislature to be setting laws. And who would have thought 5 years ago that we actually need to state this, that people cannot change their gender, and that nobody can become an animal. But this is the problem. We don't have discipline in our classrooms. We don't have consequences for our children. We're just letting them choose what they want to do and who they want to be, and whether they want to work or not. And that has to end. We have to teach our children that there is truth and there is right and wrong, and puberty is not something that is to be feared. It is something that everyone goes through, and it's hard for everyone, but it is a stage of life. It is not a disease that needs a treatment. We need to encourage our children. Everyone, in my belief, I'm a Christian. I believe everyone was created in God's image. Everyone is unique. Our schools should be places where children are developing and learning what is unique about them. What are they good at? What do we need to help them develop in? And while everyone needs to learn reading and writing and math and history, you have to go through. Not everyone is going to be excellent at reading. Not everybody is going to love math. So we need to have specials. We need to have theater. We need to have art. We need to have, PE. We need to have athletics, and let kids develop these talents that are within them. And that's how they can be identifying themselves. We are allowing children to be identified by their gender and by the color of their skin. And there is so many more important things about all of us as human beings than our gender and who we're attracted to, in the color of our skin. That's so base. It is so not important, quite honestly. And so there's going to have to be a dramatic change in kind of what our focus is. But it's time to tell kids, I'm sorry, you can pretend to be a cat when you're at home, but you can't do it here at school.
Abdul Ali made the comment when we asked him that question that he would just simply start to feed the kids cat and dog food and say, you know what, you don't get lunch today. This is what we got for you. You want a
Hey,
cat or a dog?
I think
This is what we got
that
for
is
you.
that's a perfect solution. I think somebody said the other day that a teacher where I can't remember where I heard this, that some child was saying that they were a cat and they couldn't do their schoolwork or whatever. And so then when it was time to go to the bathroom, did they say this on Saturday? Did somebody bring this up? I can't remember. That the teacher, when all the kids were going for their bathroom break, he said, nope, you can't go. Cats don't go to the bathroom in the toilet. So you need to tell your parents that they need to provide a litter box and you can go to the bathroom in the back of the classroom because, cats don't care if they go to the bathroom in public. So that nipped it in the bud.
Well, we told them that we couldn't afford the veterinary bills out here. And besides that, there's rabies shots and things were expensive. They had to have all their rabies shot.
Right.
That was a law. And there's a leash law here. So they have to walk the leash. So if they want to do all that, okay, come on. Let's do it.
That's right. There are ways around it. And by the way, kids should not be the ones that are dictating how we're handling our classrooms.
Right.
They have special dog and cat training schools out there.
That's right. That's where they need to go, right? And their
That's
parents
all.
need to pay the pretty penny to get their dogs and cats trained.
They make good service dogs and things. Dogs would be good for that.
Here's an odd question that I've kind of wondered about since I heard that this was even an issue in Pasquotank County. Evidently, we still have at least one school, I think it's actually more than one, that has asbestos in the school. The school is so old.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be done from a superintendent perspective to speed up the process of counties eliminating old issues like asbestos in the
Well,
school?
and that's
A danger, a
that's
safety issue?
I would think so because there are definite budgetary expenditures for that would be considered infrastructure, right? That would be considered something that needs to be remedied, whether it was a broken pipe or whatever it might be. And the legislature does dole out that money, but it's responsibility of the local school board to ask for that money. And so that would have to go first and foremost. So the way it happens is the legislature determines who's going to get what money. And then the DPI is basically the Department of Public Instruction and the superintendent, they're the ones that write the check. And so the way that I see it is the superintendent should be, if there's enough complaints and if the school board is not responding, then the superintendent should go and get the local legislator, whoever, whether it's the county commissioner, bring a county commissioners in, bring the state legislator that represents that district to have a conversation with the superintendent, the local superintendent of schools, and let's get that remedied. I mean, if we're all consumed with the mental health of our students, we should definitely be concerned with their physical health as well. And we know that is not a healthy situation for anyone, staff or students or cats or dogs.
Well, unless there's construction going on and they're aggregate, taking walls down, asbestos, if it's contained, it's not a problem. It's when they go in there, like if they're getting ready to burn a house down, they won't burn it until the asbestos is taken.
Right.
Yeah, you can put panel over
Yeah,
it.
that is true. Unless it's being disturbed, you're right. It's not usually a problem.
Part of the Sheep Harney School and Pasquotank Elementary. Everything else has been, possibly JC Solid.
In addition to academics, will there be a push, ever be a push on, trade classes?
Yes, sir. I believe that we need to be working with the local communities and local businesses. And I think every high school should have an opportunity for associate level classes through the community college. I'd like to even see us partnering with the community college and maybe bringing some of those teachers into our junior and senior class rooms so that the kids don't have to go to the community college to get the class, but definitely trades. There's a great charter school, out near Ashboro. And what they did is they actually asked the students what their top 5 trades they would be most interested in. And then they worked with businesses in the community, and they're teaching those classes, and they're even doing those work study programs and internships. So you take a class like in 9th grade, your freshman year of your fall semester rather of 9th grade. And it's kind of like an assessment of what you might be interested in. It's like a career assessment type of thing. And then sophomore year, you can start taking classes that are going in that direction. So you have your core classes, but then you have these electives that would be they have like automotive, they have HVAC, they have one that's cooking. What's the other one? I can't remember. Oh, one of them is what is it when you fly the things over that take picture drones, and different things. And so the kids actually get to pick what they want to do. And then in their junior and senior year, they go to class in the morning, and then in the afternoon, like from 8 to noon or 8 to 1. And then the afternoon, they're actually working in these businesses. So by the time they graduate as a senior, they've worked literally 2 years for these different companies. So the companies have trained up workers, and they're able to kind of just jump right into the workforce, and the kids have a career waiting for them when they get out of high school. So I think we have to be offering that everywhere around North Carolina. It would be ideal if we could also work with the General Assembly to be bringing some infrastructure into the more rural areas that need new business, and they need for there to be more job opportunities for our young people, because right now it seems like everybody's shoving into the big cities, and a lot of our areas of the farmland and the areas that used to have the railroad that came through, and that was a really big moneymaker to have businesses along the railroad. A lot of them there's not a lot of options for young people. And so we need to work with our county commissioners and with our legislators to give options so that kids could stay in the towns where they were born and raised, and raise their own family there, in my opinion.
Do you believe it is better to be taught by members of the trades or by teachers who have never done it before?
That's a silly question. Absolutely.
But the tradespeople get blocked out because they don't have a degree, but they're the ones that have all these.
And you know what? And I'll tell you, that is a great point, because that is one of the things that we are very much lacking. And it is one thing that the superintendent actually does deal with directly, is teacher trainings and teacher licensure. And so, on to this point, we've got to open up an ability for people that have just worked in the marketplace for so many years to be able to come and to teach classes. Throughout the state, I am running into people who have retired, and they want to give back. They want to participate, especially men. Not that, we need men in middle schools and high schools to be mentors to these young men, especially that are coming from single parent homes, and, they don't have that in their lives. And so I would 100% be on board with coming up with a fast track to get people that have, if you have a college degree in something else and you've graduated college, you should definitely be able to teach K through 12. And if you've been a tradesman and you have an expertise, absolutely come in and share your expertise. That's what apprenticeships are all about, right? That's what made our our nation as great as it is. That people used to go into the trades when they were 13 and 14 years old. And that's what they ended up doing for a living and raising their family or providing for their family. So I 100% agree with you that that needs to be a priority in our schools.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I got one more.
Let me move the camera facing here.
I've been doing research on the 1619 project. You familiar with that? You're not?
Do I agree with it?
No, no. Are you familiar with the 1619 project?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, 2/3 of it is false information. Some of it's true, but most of it's false. And it's academic dishonesty for that young lady
Yes.
who used to work for the New York Times. I'm surprised she wouldn't work for UNC because they wouldn't give her tenure. So I think she's working at George Mason University or somewhere, or Hillman College. But I did the research on the 1619 project, and that thing is almost totally false.
Yes.
Those people weren't the first slaves. They weren't even slaves. They were indentured servants. They were slaves until they got off that Portuguese ship. But she said she goes into none of that detail, and she actually hides it. And that's academic dishonesty. As far as I'm concerned, she ought to be disqualified as any kind of teacher for doing that, because they're getting on these people for plagiarism. I consider that to be, it's worse than plagiarism.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
she's making up stuff. But we need to be very careful about our students knowing the truth.
Yes.
And not being that stuff forced in the classroom. And I would fire anybody that tries to teach it. I don't care what color they are.
100%. Yep. And that's, there is, hopefully there is going to be there is a bill that is being considered, and it was called Excellence in Education. And then I think they changed the name to Equality in Education, but the left was calling it the anti-CRT bill. And because essentially it's stated that in a North Carolina public school system, you cannot teach anti-American, you can't teach, that we are inherently racist, you cannot divide people by the color of their skin, we can't be, isolating people because of their religion. It basically went through and said, it goes through all of the things. We're not going to push the LGBTQIA agenda or whatever it might be, but you're exactly right. That is why I say that I think the largest threat to the constitutional republic that we live in is our school system, because children believe any adult that's put in front of them, and we can't undo lies that are being told to them, even couched in, even the lie that's 5% lie and the other 95% is a truth. Children don't see those nuances and understand them, and we can't undo what's being done 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months out of the year for 13 years. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now on the college campuses. That's why it's so hard to hire people who have a work ethic and they have integrity and they care about the quality of the service that they're giving, that they care to show up on time and not just leave the rest of the staff hanging because they didn't feel like getting up in the morning. This is all, we're teaching our children that they are entitled to things because they're basically breathing, and we're teaching them a false victimization. There is no one in the United States that is a victim that is beyond them being able to be to achieve great things. And you're exactly right. Anybody that is teaching things that are falsehoods and that are intentionally trying to make children be ashamed of themselves, ashamed of their family, ashamed of their family's worldview, ashamed of the United States of America, has no place in the U.S. public educational system. In my opinion, if you want to teach that stuff, start your own private school, and we'll see how many people pay $10,000 a year to come to it.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Well, Michelle, I tell you, you've done a fantastic job for the fact that you've been sitting in the car speaking with us for the last hour. So that's wonderful.
Sorry, I'm like this.
To get it done.
Sorry, I'm just a floating head.
That's quite all right. We listened to a few videos before you came on, some other candidates sent us. And a couple of candidates mentioned they would pop in on Zoom here, but I don't see them.
Okay.
If you are on Zoom and you want to speak, please say something in the chat. Because otherwise, I think we're gonna close it out and go home and let Miss Morrow go, because I think you have another couple of hours of festivities where you are. Are you in Mecklenburg right now?
Yep. Yep.
That's what I thought. And is it like a Lincoln Reagan dinner or like a meet and greet kind of thing out there?
Yeah, no, this is just the meet the candidates. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fun. And we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for stopping by to introduce yourself. And we will edit this and put this out there so people can hear what you had to say to answer some of the questions if they're curious about your views on different things. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. And if anybody wants to see me elected, if you can give me $25 and work a day at the polls, that would be incredibly appreciative, because most people, I mean, I'm going around the state and helping, to get the word out, but I'm probably only touching 20% of all the people that are going to actually get to the polls. And so oftentimes when someone's standing there and says, hey, do you know who you're voting for, superintendent, vote for Michelle, because she's going to get back to the basics and, and prepare our kids for adult life. They feel like they've gotten the answer to a test. Because when they look at that ballot and there's 50 names and they don't know anybody, people are pretty appreciative. So if you're interested at all in helping me out, you can go to my website. It's Morrow, MORROWNC or 4NC.com. And I have like 3 different websites that all go to the same place.
I noticed that you have MichelleMorrowNC.com, which forwards to Michelle, the number 4, NC.com. So yeah, you seem to have covered several different domains. They should be able to find you.
Yes. And I had to do that because the people that are on the left that hate me, they kept coming up with fake ones.
Right.
Every time I'll make one. Yeah.
That happens. Alrighty, Michelle, I'm going to ask Paul to give us a benediction so we can close out this evening.
Sounds great.
Father, we're grateful to be able to come to these meetings and to be able to input at the grassroots level to solve problems in our state and in our country. We're thankful for these candidates that are dedicated to the education system and the morality that we need in our schools today. And we pray that you'll bless them and bless us as we go. We appreciate all you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.